morning, everyone, and good morning, sir. So today I will present my research proposal. The title of my research is An Analysis of Moral Values in Laskar Pelangi Movie, a descriptive study of moral values in Laskar Pelangi Movie. So in this proposal, I will analyze the content analysis or the moral values in Laskar Pelangi Movie. And I will use descriptive qualitative design as the method for my research. And the purpose of my research, the purpose of my research is to describe the moral values presented in Laskar Pelangi movie, and to describe the types of moral values in presented in Laskar Pelangi movie. I think that's all for the brief information about my research, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Maria. So now we start the question and answer session. I would like to invite discussion number one, and then Sarini, please have your time.
All right, thank you, sir, for your time. All right, I have two questions here. So my first question for Maria is, what kind of moral value in this movie that make you interested to choose this movie for your research? Is that clear?
Yes. Okay, I will answer it directly. So for the types of moral value itself, I will find it. So I will find the moral value by analyze the content analysis in Laskar Pelangi movie, but it will be later. But I have the criteria to categorize the moral value. So there are three the types of moral value that I will as the criteria to analyze the moral value in Laskar Pelangi movie. So there are the first moral value is the human relationship with themselves, and then the second one is the human relationship with other human beings, and the third criteria is a human relationship with the God. So I think if you need for more explanation, do you need more explanation, Neneng?
No, Aska is in.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Aska, for your answer. So my second question is, why do you think descriptive study design will be suitable for your research? Why don't you use experimental research or CAR? Thank you.
Okay. So I will. The reason why I use descriptive study is to describe the phenomena that I will analyze in this proposal. So I think the most suitable research design for my proposal is descriptive analysis, because I want to analyze the phenomenon or the content of the movie. So as you can see from my research question and research purpose, there is no question or research purpose that related to teaching and learning English. So if I use experimental or CAR, it is related, it's directly related to the teaching and learning process in the classroom. So in my research, I didn't come to the classroom to analyze the students or anything else for teaching the students. I just analyze the content of the movie. Is that answering your question, Neneng?
Yes, Aska is answering my question. Thank you. So I think that's the question for me. For the suggestion, I think your proposal is already good. Maybe you need to merapikan sedikit your paragraph. I think that's it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Neneng, for your question and feedback.
Okay, thank you, Neneng, yeah, for your question and suggestion. And now we continue to have the second discussion. Clemens, yeah, Nera, please have your time.
All right, opportunity. So in here I have two questions. So the first question is, what is the reason for choosing the Laskar Pelangi movie? I mean, why Indonesian movie? What is the relationship between this movie with teaching and learning EFL students? That's my first question.
All right. So the reason why I choose Laskar Pelangi movie is because this after I watched this movie, I know that there are so many moral values that can me especially as the viewers or the audience that has been watched the movie itself. So I think this movie is suitable as the subject to analyze the content analysis to find the moral values in it, because there are so many moral values that I have got from the movie. And then for the second is why Indonesian movie. So I use Indonesian movie is because Indonesian movie is, and the culture of Indonesian movie is our culture. So based on the culture, we can know that the moral values in the movie is not different from our culture. So because of that, I use Indonesian movie, and the other reason is because uh, uh, from the other journal or articles that I have ever read, most of the movie are used the American or Western movie and another Asian movie, and there is no analysis about Indonesian movie itself. So that's why I use Indonesian movie here. And then for the question about what is the reason of this movie with teaching and learning ESL. So as I have answered before, this this movie is not related to the teaching and learning process for the EVL itself. So in this research, I just do the content analysis for the research to find about the movie to find the moral values and its types in the movie. So I think there is no relationship about the teaching and learning process about the EVL for EVL students. But I think my research proposal can be used as the reference for them. I mean EVL students to learn about the moral values in a movie. So that's all my question. That's all of my answer. Is it answering your question?
Yes, it's answering my questions. So now I will tell the second questions. So I want to ask you, how can you you know the type of moral value from your research?
Okay, as I have mentioned before, I have 3 criteria to categorize the moral value. So this criteria is from I cited from Woods. I don't know. I cited from Nurgianto in Hastuti and Dewi. So there are 3 types of moral values. The first is the human relationship with themselves. The second is the human relationship with other human beings. And the third is the human relationship with God. So based on these types, I will categorize the moral values that I have found or presented in the movie in the Laskar Pelangi movie. So that's my answer.
All right, thank you for answering my questions. So now I will tell about the suggestions that I will give to you. So I think in terminology, you don't need to describe about descriptive study, and then you can add some informations or more detailed informations in your procedure, uh, in methodology. I think that's all about my suggestions.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Clemencia, for your questions and suggestion. Okay, now my turn. I just continue Clemencia question, because that's also my concern, and I want also to confirm through this seminar practice. Yeah, I think the topic, yeah, your topic, analyzing moral value in Laskar Pelangi. Yeah, Laskar Pelangi is Indonesian movie. Yeah, and we are from English department. Now, I don't think that's. I mean, it will become the issue later if you use this one, because the student's title or the topic for the scriptsy must be related, yeah, somehow, to what extent, yeah, to some extent, uh, to our department, to our prodi. Yeah. So once again, the topic for scriptsy, yeah, must in some way, in some extent, be related to our prodi. So Laskar Pelangi, that's correct. It's one of the good movie. This we know this movie is very motivating. Yeah. Bringing good moral values, yeah, for particularly for teachers and also for a young generation, I think. But it is not only that, because we are from English department, so we have to learn. The idea is actually is not merely learning the values, but while we are watching, we are learning English. Yeah. So the idea is there. Yeah. So that's number one. So the connection between watching movie and learning values is actually we are learning language. So because the movie must use target language, in this case is English, or if not English, the movie is not English, there must be subtitle in English. But we cannot say, we cannot, I think, I'm pretty sure that if you use Laskar Pelangi, it will be problem later, even though it use English subtitle, because we are Indonesian, and why bother we use English subtitle? Yeah. We use subtitle because we want to understand the movie. Now, if movie is in Bahasa Indonesia, in Indonesian language, so we don't need English subtitle. So subtitle in this case is needed if the language of the movie is not Indonesian. Like for example, the the movie is in Chinese, for example, or in Japanese, in Korean, or something like that. So then we need subtitles. So it could be possible if you use this kind of movie, Korean movie, for example, like that, with English subtitle. Yeah. So then we learn the values. The values, yeah, Korean values, perhaps, yeah. And of course, at the same time, we learn English because we are reading the subtitle. So that's number one. Number two, actually, when we are learning language, we are learning the culture. So because language and culture are two things inseparable. Whether we are by intention learning the culture or not, yeah. So unconsciously, for example, we are learning the culture of English because we are learning English. Then we are learning the values of English. So that's why, I mean, that's the connection between analysis of moral values in movie. So it is not actually just a movie. So the movie must have that kind of character. Now, that's my, I mean, so my comment, yeah, about the movie, yeah. So it is true that Laskar Pelangi may have very good moral values that you can communicate. So I'm not saying that Laskar Pelangi is not suitable because it does not good value or it does not contains. I mean, the movie itself is not good, yeah, but it's more on the connection between our department. Now, if you are, let's say, doing this, so I'm afraid that later, yeah, in real seminar, you will be asked yet to also to change the movie, unless, yeah, accepts that you have discussed it with your supervisor, and supervisor, I mean, with a great awareness, I mean, with awareness that she or he knows that this is Indonesian movie, but she or he, for example, insists on doing this with a very specific reason, for example, like that. So this movie could be okay. Yeah. But if you haven't discussed with your supervisor, or your supervisor know this, but there is no any other comment, and just say yes. So you have to be ready with this kind of rejection. Because the discussion, yeah, lecture discussion must, I mean, I can predict that they must ask about the connection with our department. Okay, so what 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 do you say, Maria? Hello.
Actually, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Actually, when first I uh, mengajukan gitu, sir, my titlenya awalnya bukan pakai Laskar Pelangi movie, sir, pakai Encanto movie, sir, pertamanya.
Sorry.
Tapi awalnya itu movie-nya tetap analisis tentang analisis moral value, sir. Tapi pas awalnya itu bukan Laskar Pelangi movie, sir. Jadi pertamanya tuh pakai Encanto movie. Nah, setelah diskusi, maksudnya bertanya dengan Mem Yanti bilang kalau moral values tentang Western movie itu udah terlalu banyak. Jadi disarankan untuk ambil movie lain gitu, atau enggak take for the purpose we use CCU aspect, sir. So that was the suggestion from Memyanti. So then I come up with this movie because I don't think that any Indonesian movie has educational values for this another kind of movies.
Did Bu Yanti already, I mean, have some comment about this, about Laskar Pelangi movie that's become your choice?
Pardon, sir?
Did Bu Yanti already have some comment about this topic? I mean the movie Laskar Pelangi.
Kalau untuk yang dari segi proposalnya sampai movie-nya tuh kayaknya belum, sir, untuk yang komen secara detail. Tapi bilang boleh pakai ini, cuman nanti dikonsultasikan lagi gitu. Sampai tapi sekarang saya belum kontak Mem Yanti lagi untuk konsultasi, sir.
Okay. Now, I mean, it's like this. Yeah, I repeat once again that our department, visi misi, the missions of the vision of our prodi is learning English. So anything related to English, because our department is English department, English education department. Now, if this one is for Bahasa Indonesia department, I think it will be no problem. Yeah. So once again, it is actually the problem. Here, the problem is not about the the movie itself, yeah, but we are talking about how this related to our department. Yeah. Now, one of the very basic requirements of the student's work is, I mean, this case is scriptsy. It must be, as I said, somehow in some extent related to our department. So if you can raise that issue, I mean, if you insist on doing this, the analysis of Laskar Pelangi movie, you have to have some specific argument to indicate that you are aware, yeah, that your movie is not directly related to English education, but somehow you, with your specific argument, you insist on doing this, yeah, on taking Laskar Pelangi as the object of your analysis. Yeah. Now, by that one, I mean, you will be ready, yeah, if the rejections by some discussion later in real seminar, you are ready to respond this. Yeah. This is kind. I mean, I bring this issue. And Clemencia already started. Just it's kind of early warning. So you later. So if you still want to do this, I think I'm not automatically reject this one. I'm just telling you as kind of early warning. So then you are aware this kind of question will be raised by other lectures later. So then, and you will be ready from now on how to respond that kind of question. Now, that could be even better, yeah, compared with as what Bu Yanti said, Western movie. If once again, if you have specific argument in doing this, yeah, so you are aware that your movie is not directly related to our department, but still you are doing this because of specific reasons. The solution perhaps you try to in your background, you try to bring, yes, some values that become lessened, yeah, in today's situation. I mean, the values of Indonesian values, for example, because this generation having too much exposed, yeah, to, for example, foreign values, so then Indonesian values become lessons, and then you try to bring this for Indonesian students or for the Indonesian learners who are learning English, you can still bring this issue into your, into learning English. So once again, the point is actually you have to be aware that you have to have the specific reason to choose this one, and you have to indicate that you know what people are, what the discussion are talking about. It is not the case that you don't know. It is not the case that you are not aware of this issue. You are aware, and you have the good reason why you still bring this issue into your scriptsy. Now, I think your topics, your research is already good. Yeah, your proposal. In general, yeah, in general, it's already good. Now, if you are not sure about Laskar Pelangi, so I think it will be a big problem, because it's kind of you try to rewrite from the very beginning again, because you have to set that your brain, your thinking, that you switch to other movie. Meanwhile, the only focus of your research is this movie. So that's why this is very important to consider whether you are going still keep on doing this, or you are trying to change the movie. But my feeling, my suggestion is 50-50, between changing and between keeping, because once again, the idea, the issue is actually the argument why you bring this, and your argument should be explicit that the choice of this movie, because of certain reasons in relation to education, and particularly English education. I have given you the example, like the lessening of of the moral values, Indonesian values right now become lessened because of the global network. Yes, so then young generation are easily now, or even more, being exposed with foreign values, and you want to once again bring this issue into education, and you delivered it in English. Not the movie itself is in English, but you are bring this issue in the context of English education in either in our department or at school later, for example, like that. All right. So Maria, I think that's the comment on your topics. Yeah. Except that, so I think it's just okay. Now, it is a pity if you are not if you are not aware of this, because you have already written your introduction with this Laskar Pelangi behind the issue, so then you can write this good, yeah, quite well. So if you check the title, the movie, so this by automatic that you have to change again the whole story of your introduction and also other parts of your your proposal. All right, so next, for introduction, it as far as it's Laskar Pelangi, it's already good, yeah, and good size also. And your research purpose, research question, what are the moral values, what type of moral values are presented in, what are the moral values, what is the difference between question 1 and 2? This is what moral values. What type of moral value?
Ada. Dan itu kinds-nya sebenarnya.
Sorry?
Bentuknya. Kan sebenarnya tuh ada types dan kind gitu sir. Dalam types of moral value itu ada bentuknya lagi gitu sir. Misalnya brave gitu. Itulah moral values-nya gitu. Nah types-nya misalnya human relationship with themselves. Nah itu saya lupa masukkan ke dalam proposalnya.
But I think that's just the same. Whatever question you ask, as far as it's just kind of referring to the kinds or the types, or whatever, it's actually the same thing. Yeah? Perhaps the difference only perhaps the categories or the size of categorization, things like that. But still, it refers to grouping of values. Yeah. So it's if you want to make a research question, it should be question number 1 and number 2 is totally different. For example, if the question number 1 is asking about the grouping of values, question number 2, for example, asking the situation, and just to give you one example, because it is not necessarily easy to create the second question. So I just want to show that question number 1 and 2 should be totally different. Yeah, the first the question number 1, you are talking about the group of the kinds of values, moral values, and then the second question, for example, is asking about the situation where this value occur, for example, like that. So you can see the difference between question number 1 and question number 2. If you are asking something like this, yeah, it is the same questions. Perhaps the difference is only the first one is general question, and the second is the more specific questions. Yeah. So, for example, you can have a question, a big question or general question.
Excuse me, sir. I think you're still mute.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So once again, about the question, I think it is applied to everybody, because I still find that you construct your research questions in very similar way. Question number 1 and number 2. Yeah. So actually, question number 1 and number 2 should be very different in nature, yeah, or because the focus of the question will be different. So for Maria, for example, I just give you one example that your research question is actually only one, because this, I consider this number 1 is more general, for example, like that, and number 2 become more specific. You can find whatever, what other kinds of questions. I mean, what are the focus of your questions? So the question is actually helping us, particularly the reader like me, helping us to understand the focus of your research. So if you have 2 questions, for example, so meaning at least you can see, I mean, you can have 2 kind of instrument, because one question to answer research questions, question number 1, for example, can be answered with one kind of data. Question number 2 should be the other kind of data. So if you use the same data to answer 2 questions, meaning that it is actually this one question. All right. So if you can't find the second question, it is just okay to have one question. but usually it is not normal to have only one question if your research is like this. I mean, investigating the moral value. I think you can have more than one questions. And like I said, the because that's the situation, as I said, this is what kind of situation is these values occur or appear. So this investigation is actually, the data is asking the researcher to find out the relating issue, that bringing, or you can say that we can predict that if the situation like this, so what values should be present, something like that. It's kind of the analysis of this. All right. Set question, set purpose, significant, terminology, movie, a movie. Okay. This one is documentation of motion picture. There's two general definition. I very often say that terminology is actually the short definition of something that only apply to your research. So it could be possible like this. Yeah. For example, I have also the research about movie, and you also have research about movie. My definition about movie and your definition could be different, because the definition of movie in my case, in my context, is specific, and must be different from other research. So that's what we call terminology actually. But if you bring the definition, only the dictionary definition, or only a very general definition, then we cannot say this as kind of terminology. It is just common vocabulary. Ya. Kalau misalkan movie adalah bla 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 bla, itu adalah definisi dari dictionary, ya itu namanya bukan terminologi, itu namanya vocabulary kan. Dalam kamus kan memang ada daftar vocabulary yang didefinisikan. Kalau kita ngambil definisinya itu dari kamus atau definisi umum, nah itu bukan terminologi, ya. Tapi itu daftar kata biasa. Makanya harusnya terminologi must be specific. If you can't think of specific definition, so it means that that word is not terminology in your research. Ya. Makanya to make it specific, misalkan movie yang dimaksud di sini adalah movie yang mengandung values, misalkan yang ada hubungannya dengan values, pun kita hubungkan lagi kan. Bukan sembarang values, tapi values yang ada hubungannya dengan pendidikan, generasi muda, dan sebagainya seperti itu. Bukan values dalam arti misalkan perang, dalam arti hubungan internasional dan sebagainya seperti itu misalkan. Jadi tetap itu definisinya. Jadi ketika kita bicara value, movie di dalam riset kita, jadi movie yang kita maksud adalah movie-movie yang mengandung educational values. If you provide a terminology definition, that movie in this case is movie which this kind of specific values, things like that. Also something like this, in moral values. Nah, di dalam terminologi kalian tidak harus merujuk referensi seperti ini, kecuali yang sangat-sangat spesifik, dan terminologi itu benar-benar terminologi yang sangat spesifik gitu. Jadi kita tidak perlu lagi mendefinisikan dengan cara kita sendiri, kita ngambil definisi itu dari milik orang lain gitu. Nah, boleh seperti itu. Misalkan begini, kata e-learning yang paling sering tuh di judul mahasiswa banyak sekali e-learning. E-learning itu kan definisinya sangat umum. Tapi kalau Anda ingin misalkan mengambil satu definisi dan definisi itu sangat unik di buku tertentu atau di artikel tertentu, tidak Anda boleh. Jadi yang dimaksud dengan e-learning di sini adalah ini gitu kan, yang saya ambil definisinya dari si A si B yang memang definisinya sama. So that's the terminology. Kalau Laskar Pelangi atau yang lain-lain itu memang sudah spesifik ya. So maka dia masuk dalam terminologi kita. Tapi dan kita tidak perlu repot-repot nyarikan spesifik definition karena yang seperti ini sudah spesifik. Yang cenderung salah itu adalah ya seperti ini, moral value itu apa, movie itu apa, itu biasanya mahasiswa memberikan penjelasannya itu adalah penjelasan umum, penjelasan yang ada dari kamus dan sebagainya. Nah, it's actually based on research textbooks. That's not what we mean by terminology. So terminology only happens in your where the definition is only happening in your specific research project. Kemudian descriptive study ini kan jenis riset, jadi sebenarnya tidak perlu dimasukkan dalam terminologi karena itu adalah bagian daripada metodologi. Jadi metodologi itu tidak perlulah dijadikan misalkan CAR, development research, descriptive eksperimen kayak gitu itu tidak perlu menjadi your terminology terms ya. Tapi kalau yang ini yang seperti ini perlu sebenarnya, cuman bagaimana mendefinisikan itu tadi yang seperti yang saya katakan. Oke. Theoretical framework. Theoretical framework ini juga yang sering salah ya. Sebenarnya dalam theoretical framework pertanyaan pertama yang harus ditanyakan itu adalah penelitian kita itu tentang apa? Coba Maria, what is your topic? I mean, what is your research about? Pertanyaannya, ya, sebentar. Jawabannya itu mungkin ada 3-4 kemungkinan. Ya. 4 kemungkinan. Yang pertama tentang teaching. Apakah riset kita tentang teaching? Oh, bukan. Berarti kemungkinannya tentang learning. Jadi, learning. Oke, kalau gitu bukan juga learning, berarti tentang language. Oh, kalau bukan juga language, berarti tentang culture. Nah, gitu. Nah, kalau ini penelitian kita, sebenarnya kita sedang menginvestigasi apa? Nah, kalau di prodi kita yang paling common itu adalah teaching and learning. Kalau teaching biasanya adalah yang menjadi data adalah guru dengan segala kegiatannya. Kalau learning berarti yang menjadi target kita, data kita adalah berasal dari siswa dengan segala kegiatannya. Nah, yang biasa salah itu adalah bahasa nih, misalkan teaching, speaking misalkan. Tiba-tiba mahasiswa bicara tentang tentang speaking, definition of speaking. Nah, itu kan speaking itu bagian daripada language. Maka dia mengarah kepada penelitian linguistics atau vocabulary. Jadi definition of vocabulary seperti itu. Nah, padahal yang kita teliti sebenarnya kemampuan siswa vocabulary mastery atau adalah metodologi pembelajaran guru mengajar vocabulary. Nah, itu kan, nah yang begitu. Nah sekarang ini riset ini tentang apa? Tentang apa kira-kira?
Kalau dilihat dari ininya seharusnya tentang language ya, Sir. Atau enggak culture-nya kan? Antara dua.
Nah, kalau culture berarti kita itu meneliti tentang perkembangan culture. Meneliti tentang mendeskripsikan culture sesuatu. Target dalam hal ini berarti English culture. Kalau dia tentang language, berarti penelitian kita itu tentang mendeskripsikan bahasa, mendeskripsikan perkembangan sebuah bahasa. Kan jelas itu tidak. Yang kedua juga tidak. Kita kan tidak sedang mendeskripsikan culture, tapi lebih kepada sebenarnya mengajarkan culture atau belajar culture. Jadi lebih kepada learning or teaching. It is more on learning culture or more on learning teaching culture. Jadi kan sebenarnya itu. Jadi kalau kita misalkan ini adalah bagian daripada teaching, kan bisa saja salah satu kalau saya ya memahaminya ini adalah teaching language. Kita berangkat dari mengajar bahasa dan mengajar culture. Jadi semua pembelajaran bahasa itu tidak bisa kita pisahkan dengan culture. Jadi kalau mau belajar bahasa, mau tidak mau kita tuh belajar culture kan itu. Jadi jadi materi yang kita sampaikan ke siswa kita pasti mengandung culture kan gitu. Kalau saya dulu waktu saya menulis skripsi saya waktu S1 dulu, ya kurang lebih begini. Tapi kalau saya meneliti ininya, yang saya sebut dengan cultural bias. Jadi bias kultur ya, bias budaya dari materi pembelajaran yang ada. Nah, tetap we are talking about teaching and learning actually. Dan itu sangat relevan dengan prodi kita yaitu English education. Kalau kita bicara tentang language, perkembangan language sebenarnya tidak terlalu relevan dengan kita karena dia lebih kepada dunia sastra. Termasuklah dunia, misalkan culture itu dunia sastra sebenarnya. Tapi kalau mau dihubung-hubungkan bisa gitu ya. Nah, that's the technique for us to frame our theories. Theoretical framework. So talk about that. Nah, kalau kita tuh all of a sudden we start our discussion from movie, so it's very big issue. It's more on society and more on culture. Ya, padahal kita kan penelitian kita itu pasti tentang education. So that's the way how we start our theories. Yeah. So my suggestion here perhaps is still learning language, ya, language and culture. Jadi di dalamnya itu ada values gitu, elemen of movies. Nah, di dalamnya nanti memang ada kita bicara tentang ini, tentang movie tetap ada. Tapi memulai bicara tuh maksud saya jangan langsung movie, karena kalau langsung movie seolah-olah penelitian kita itu tentang culture yang lebih big picture itu. Padahal kan kita sebenarnya lebih kepada belajar bahasa yang secara otomatis gitu juga belajar culture. Culture itu bicara tentang values. Ya. Nah gitulah kira-kira koneksinya ya. So I suggest that for everybody ya, karena ini bagian yang sering sekali salah. Cara pola berpikir bagaimana kita memframe our teori gitu ya. Saya sarankan kita tidak keluarlah dari dunia education. So we are English language education department. So actually our core theory is language or English education or English teaching or English learning. Jadi bisa saja kita mulai di sini adalah belajar bahasa. Belajar bahasa ya. So you can start from learning language ya, atau teaching language. Tapi lebih pas learning language because we learn language and culture at the same time. Nah setelah ini baru bicaralah ini movie ini tidak perlu dibuang tapi ditambah introduction-nya aja tadi supaya masuk gitu dari framework kita moral values. I think that's fine. I don't read this in specific, but the structure, the way you present it, I think it's okay. All right, a conceptual framework. Conceptual framework is more on the explanation to bridge between your theories and your methodology. If you want to, for example, do a descriptive study, and meanwhile what you are going to describe is the culture. So this explanation should be about how you what's that? You internalize or how you translate the theories. You already talks about theories, and then how you translate the theories become the topic of your research. Nah, jadi sebenarnya itu apa frame of concept. Ya. Kalau di banyak metode proposal, frame of concept itu berada di chapter 3, yaitu chapter metodologi. Jadi dalam chapter metodologi itu kita ada research design, kemudian ada frame of concept-nya gitu di dalam. Karena sebenarnya frame of concept itu adalah bagian daripada metodologi penelitian. Alright, research method, descriptive study, yes, make key and guess. Wow, ini bagus. Baru sekali. Do you have the book? Yang ini?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Iya, ada Mem Yanti share ke grup angkatan.
I have that book also. Yeah, saya sudah print satu buku. That's very good book. So I do recommend every single student to have this copy, because almost every single research design that familiar in our departments already discussed in here. So menurut saya ini become our it's kind of compulsory reading ya, bagi dosen juga ya, bagi mahasiswa juga. Qualitative research bla 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 ya, sepanjang ini sudah cek itu sudah oke. Source of data, ini yang mirip frame of concept sebenarnya di sini nih, di source of data collection. Nah, ini sebenarnya harus dijelaskan bagaimana kamu itu mekanisme ngambil moral values-nya seperti apa. How you chunk the information. Data kamu tuh apa datanya?
Datanya dari skripnya, terus dialog sama screenshot movie-nya, sir.
So, original script. The primary data is taken from the original script. Ya, apanya gitu ya, dalam original script itu apa? Nah, ini kan susah ya. Kalau tidak dijelaskan, inilah yang frame of concept itu tadi ya. Misalkan dalam movie itu ada apanya, values gitu kan. Nah, sekarang mau menentukan values-nya itu di mana?
Dari dialognya, sir. Kan conversation maksudnya.
Tapi dalam dialog, apakah setiap dialog itu mengandung values?
Kadang actionnya juga ada seharusnya, sir. Bukan hanya dari conversation dan dialog, tapi action, maksudnya penggambaran actionnya di dalam movie-nya gitu.
Gini ya, misalkan ada mahasiswa penelitiannya itu adalah code switching and code mixing. Berarti kan penelitian dia adalah menemukan code switching. Nah, kalau code switching jelas yang kita cari itu adalah kata-kata yang bukan bahasa Inggris. Dia ngomong bahasa Inggris, tiba-tiba dia campurnya dengan bahasa Indonesia misalnya. Maka dalam data itu yang kita cari adalah bahasa Indonesia sebagai bukti bahwa inilah bentuk daripada code switch. Nah, gitu kan. Jadi datanya tuh jelas, yaitu dalam bentuk vocabularies atau dalam bentuk utterances. Gitu. Nah, kalau kamu ini kan susah. Values-nya tuh di mana letaknya gitu. Nah itu harus dijelaskan. Apakah dia berada di kata-kata, isolated vocabularies, atau dia di conversation as you said. Kalau conversation itu kan dari ujung ke ujung. Nah, how are you going to break down that data into analyzable, ya, analyzable data. Nah, kalau dia itu dialog, jadi dialognya apakah langsung kita ambil begitu aja atau dia menjadi chunking, the chunk the chunk of the conversation. So it's kind of, for example, how the mechanism you separate one dialogue to another dialogue to detect the values, seperti itu. Nah, that's very important to be explained here. Disebut dalam riset itu disebut dengan unit of analysis. What is the unit of analysis in your case? Itu penting sekali lagi ya. Data collection, tools-nya, nah, dia harusnya di sini adalah unit of analysis di sini. Jadi unit of analysis-nya di sini, kemudian di sini baru moral value-nya. Kalau yang ini ya boleh, ini kita mau melihat lokasinya saja. Tapi yang paling penting tadi itu adalah chunking of the conversation, chunking of the scene. Ya. Scene from this minute to this minute, ya, from this second to this second contains this value, misalkan kan itu harus ini. Nah, the way you chunks, ya, you separate, ya, you break up, you break down, I mean, the conversation should be explained. Kalau toolsnya bolehlah seperti ini sudah oke, tapi ya tadi mungkin di otak-atik lagi. Technique of data collection, download scripts. What do you mean by downloads? You mean that the script already available? And
Yes, sir.
so it's already you don't need to watch them in order to transcribe. It's already there.
Iya, jadi ada dua misalnya. Ada yang di reading, nanti ada juga yang di watch juga. Movie-nya di watch sambil menyesuaikan di transkrip itu sama tidak dengan yang di dalam movie-nya.
Are you also going to read the novel or only this?
Read transkripnya, sir. Kalau novel enggak.
Nah. All right. Collect and select the data. Nah, ini yang tadi ya, yang ini. Ya, sebenarnya penjelasannya di sini ya. Di bagian ini ya, source of data collection. And you are talking about the unit of analysis ya, unit of analysis. Technique of data tadi ini apa? Technique of data collection. Ini analysis, oke. Okay. Classifying, describe, and data, create conclusion. Kalau ini sih very common, so I think I can accept this one karena in qualitative analysis is, I mean, it's very, as far as this logical, in order, so we can accept that. Oke, alright, saya kira itu ininya sudah lumayan ya, referensinya, stylenya sudah oke, saya kira sudah konsisten untuk ini IPA. Cuman ini aja penulisan doi-nya itu bukan seperti ini kan dia. Kalau menurut IPA dia bukan alamat HTTPS-nya, tapi DOI.2 nomornya. Nah, supaya lebih rapi, kita tidak mengambil semua ini, cuma mulai dari angka 10. Karena semua doi itu mulai dari angka 10. Jadi berarti misalkan untuk artikel ini, Handbook of Social Work Research Methods, itu adalah ini. Nah, ada apa sampai 10-nya. Sampai 10, dari 10, angka 10 sampai angka 2. Itu dia doi numbernya. Okay, Maria, I think that's it. Yeah, from me. Do you have any questions before I close this session? I cannot hear your voice.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah.
Jadi movie-nya ini antara di keep atau di change ya, sir. Kalau misalnya di keep harus ada
Who is your supervisor?
Supervisor pertama Bu Yanti, yang kedua Mem Eka. Supervisor kedua Mem Eka.
Okay. Saya kira my suggestion is that you have to talk with Ibu Yanti about the issue that I raised, ya, yaitu tentang koneksi, ya. Kalau Anda memilih Laskar Pelangi, apa hubungannya? Hubungan yang langsung, ya, direct relation dengan prodi kita. Masalahnya cuma di situ sebenarnya. Nah, tetapi kamu juga harus bilang sama Bu Yanti bahwa saya juga mengatakan bahwa ini bisa saja diambil, di keep gitu ya, sepanjang ada argumen yang spesifik ya. Contoh argumen itu tadi saya katakan, misalkan sekarang itu karena dunia semakin global, generasi muda itu terekspos dengan culture yang global yang nggak jelas, itu culture orang Indonesia. Yang kita anggap culture Indonesia itu ada hal-hal baiknya gitu ya. Nah, sekarang untuk menekankan kembali culture itu kita perlulah belajar dari movie-movie Indonesia. Jadi salah satunya misalkan Laskar Pelangi yang syarat dengan makna dan dengan moral values yang sangat cocok misalkan untuk generasi muda dan juga para guru misalkan di Indonesia. Jadi kan kamu punya alasan tersendiri gitu. Nah, hubungannya dengan prodi kita ya kita belajar culture dengan menggunakan bahasa Inggris. You are talking this culture in English. Kalau tadi yang satunya we are learning English values through English language, ya, gitu. Nah, kita sebenarnya kepingin belajar Indonesian values, but in English. Nah, kalau gitu kan susah nyarinya, movie yang dalam bahasa Indonesia, bahasa Inggris maksud saya. Tapi konteks Indonesia gitu kan susah nyarinya, hampir tidak ada kan. Nah, di kesulitan itulah maka menyebabkan kita tetap mengambil Laskar Pelangi. Nah, kalau argumen seperti itu saya yakin itu tidak jadi masalah gitu. You also want to study Indonesian values, but we are talking these values in English. Nah, kalau maksud saya sudah didiskusikan seperti itu dengan supervisor, di raise that issue, so then you are aware that the problem is here, but it is actually not a problem, but more on the argument, yeah, how you argue this issue, so it becomes the choice. As I told you, to me, it's kind of 50-50. You keep it or you change the topic. The movie. Yeah. Seperti itu. Okay. Anything else?
Jadi untuk yang frame of teorinya juga harus sesuai dengan ini ya, Sir, menjelaskan metodologinya ya.
Teori atau frame of concept?
Conceptual framework.
Ya.
Oh,
Jadi kalau conceptual framework biasanya itu adalah menjelaskan metodologi, tetapi secara umum karena kita belum bicara masalah metodologi kan. Misalkan tadi itu yang bisa dibahas di frame of concept itu adalah chunking tadi itu, chunking the data. Misalkan kita bicara masalah values kan, bahwa values dalam sebuah movie itu tidak hanya terkandung oleh beberapa kata, bisa saja sebagai terkandung di proverb atau di statement. Tetapi bisa juga values itu dikandung oleh sebuah conversation yang cukup panjang. Nah, jadi penelitian ini misalkan mekanismenya adalah mendetek values itu dari berbagai cara, gitu kan? Dari mendeteksi vocabularies-nya atau phrase-nya atau sentences-nya, proverb-nya, statement maksud saya, atau chunking ya. Chunking itu breaking down the conversation into set of unit itu. Unit satu mengandung, misalkan unit satu mengandung satu values, terdiri dari katakanlah 20 statement gitu kan. Kemudian unit 2 mengandung moral value yang satu lagi gitu. Hanya terdiri misalkan 10 statement, conversation. Nah, mekanisme itulah yang diceritakan bisa diceritakan dalam di frame of concept. This is the way how you will do the research ya, in terms of watching or reading the subtitle, the transcript of the movie. Ya, gitu ya.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you for the explanation, sir.
All right, everyone. So I think that's the end of our meeting today. So the next apa nih? Saya lihat tuh kita. We try to have 2 presenters next week. Ya. Mana dia? Wait a minute. Where are you? Berarti yang akan datang itu Dava sama Clemencia gitu. Hari Selasanya. Kemudian hari Kamisnya Ardia Saputri. We try ya, karena kita try to speed up ya. Kalau bisa sih dua-dua gitu. Nanti minggu depan kalau kalian itu bisa hadir lebih awal, bisa nggak kira-kira? Kan kita mulainya itu jam 8.40 ya. Bisa nggak misalkan mulainya itu jam 8 gitu.
Ada kelas paginya.
Okay.
Jam 7.30 sampai 8.30.
Oke, kalau gitu berarti nggak bisa. Ya sudah, kalau gitu berarti kita hanya 1 orang ya untuk hari Kamis. Baiklah, saya kira demikian ya. See you again next week, insya Allah ya.